while I was inside. And that was not just the only business. In Spring Valley, in Elmwood, it's just been wonderful to be part of the community, the commercial businesses, the schools, the government administration, and other things. Wayne didn't only offer us to go out to a restaurant. Many other people have also invited us. Pretty quickly after that, I know the Merlin Places took us down, I believe it was the Sacred Heart in Elmwood, to pancake supper or something down there. But Wayne also brought over one of the histories of Doug Blagan, the histories of Spring Valley, and I believe it was Glenn Nelson brought the one from Elmwood, which I was able to peruse. But there was something interesting in this history, the way that Doug arranged it, talking about the different institutions in the community. When he got to the churches, the chapter was titled Churches and the Hereafter. You know, that made me uncomfortable. I didn't like to think about Spring Lake and Gilman and St. John and Sacred Heart and the other congregations around being about the hereafter. We were part of the community, sharing things. But you know, as the years went by, I really began to appreciate his selection of that categorization of the congregations being in the business of the hereafter. There's lots of other community organizations and institutions that call upon us to be working with the here and now. But as the people of God, you and I are encouraged and motivated by our churches, the religious institutions that Jesus established, to remind us and promote us and convict us about serving a purpose that is in the hereafter. Our lessons today from Isaiah and also from Luke call upon us to recognize the centrality of this for the people of God. Isaiah had an influential vision of the presence and the reality of God, surrounded by the seraphim in blinding light. He knew about the spiritual heavenly dimension that we can kind of refer to as the hereafter. And that motivated him to be a prophet, challenging the people of his time to be serving a purpose that was bigger than just the immediate selfish ambitions and interests that they had. So he called upon them, as we read, to stop pointing the finger and speaking evil, but instead offering food to the hungry and satisfying the needs of the afflicted. And then down a little bit lower, he calls upon them to be consistent in recognizing the Sabbath disciplines, worship and prayer and praise, and offerings and other things. If you refrain from trampling the Sabbath and pursuing your own interests on my holy day, then you shall take delight in the Lord. I'll make you ride on the heights of the earth. Isaiah, all the other prophets, other leaders, challenged the people of their time to be living for the hereafter and not just for the here and now. And likewise, in the story of Jesus, he addresses likewise the two dimensions of the great commandment. He casts this demon out from the woman in a loving demonstration of service to neighbor. But then also he addresses the challenge that people be taking the Sabbath, this great symbol of our relationship with God, seriously. Love the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength, and your neighbor as yourself. In this community, Spring Valley, Elmwood, El Paso, and extensive Pierce and Dunn counties, we join together in so many ways in serving the here and now. But as the people of God, we have a special privilege in our parish, joining with other congregations, other denominations, in reminding ourselves that Jesus himself committed himself to the hereafter. From the moment he began, he recognized he was going to the cross. 3 times he said it's necessary for the Son of Man to go to Jerusalem, to suffer at the hands of sinners, to be crucified, and then to rise again. The purpose of eternity compelled him all the time. So on this final Sunday, to be with so many of us gathered together, again, let's recognize and thank God for the privilege that we have, the responsibility we have to be the people of God serving the hereafter in our church, even as we serve the here and now. I'd like to continue now by I didn't know when a good time would be, but just to recognize and some of the things about our parish life together, and I hope this won't take real long. But I would like to review a couple things. As I've noticed, I've been 16 years, almost exactly. Just for your information, that's 1/4 of my entire life, exactly, huh? You think I've invested or been blessed by you? 1/4 of my life. And by the way, I've been a pastor for 38 years, and that's about 40% of my ministry has been done here in this community. Okay. I'm rather proud, actually, to be the 3rd longest serving pastor in this parish, okay? I'm just gonna list the pastors who've been here for 8 years or longer. And Spring Lake and Gilman have a wonderful record of treating your pastors in a way that we find reasons to stay a little longer. Yes, Pastors Onnested and Comstra were here for 8 years. Pastor Gordon here was here for 11. Pastor Moen was at Spring Lake for 12 years. Pastor Holsty was here for 13. And I was here for 16. But then I went up against the big boys. The pastor who started both congregations and continued at Gilman when other pastors took over at Spring Lake for him, Pastor Thorson was here for, count them, 28 years. And then the man who's a legend among all of us was Pastor Bervin, 33 years, okay? So I've been blessed and privileged to be part of a tradition of marvelous servants of God who were wonderfully treated by you, the congregation. When I came, the attendance at Spring Lake had an average of 49. It went up to 58 8 years later, but then it went down to 32 recently. So I'll be honest about some challenges there. And likewise, Gilman has started at 92 average worship. And it went down to 67, and it is average is about 70 right now. So that's been a challenge and a measure of our involvement here. I just want to take something to rejoice in. The property projects have just been ongoing and disciplined. So let me first read of Spring Lake. We renovated the bathrooms, we repaired the basement walls, we replaced the roof, we redid the wiring in basement and up in the sanctuary. We put on new doors, we painted the ceiling, we put in a front sign, put in a prayer garden, we installed a wonderful memorial cross outside. That's a lot of maintenance. I hope I didn't overlook something. At Gilman, we replaced the roof over the sanctuary and also over the education ring. We replaced all the basement windows all around. We replaced the sanctuary and basement lights. We had the walls plastered. Roy Johnson worked so hard on that. We had the tower tuck pointed. We installed new back steps. We had the sanctuary painted. The entryway steps and walkway were rebuilt and reinstalled, and we put in an audio system. Now I'd like to just go on and recognize mostly appointed leaders in different things. And and I'll ask you to hold your applause, but maybe I'll call for some at the end. Beyond the property things, much more important were the worship services that we conducted, but also our social ministry. And I'd like to just highlight and call out that we have this wonderful ministry to Grace Place Homeless Shelter, where about 50 women make meals, all women by the way, to be taken up there through the course of the year. We have our West Cap volunteers go up once a month, and we should recognize Phil Burgess for promoting that so much. We've become involved in the cancer run. That was huge. It's become a huge ministry. Jill and Steve Hartung were instrumental in getting that started, and Carol and